You know, I just don't make pretty things to put on display with my 3D printer. There's also something called practical prints. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with me, Steven. And it is episode number 448 for March the 16th, 2026. Tomorrow's St. Patty's Day, so get out your green beer, get out your green hat, get out your green hair, get out whatever's green, because it's St. Patty's Day, which basically is just an excuse for people to go out drinking green beer. And did you know, just as a side note, that in Ireland, they don't actually celebrate St. Patty's Day the way we do. Or, who does? I don't really celebrate St. Patty's Day. I think it's kind of stupid myself. But, when I was in university, we drank green beer until we threw up green stuff. Yeah, not pretty. Not pretty. Anyways, welcome to today's episode. This is not a live, okay? And now the reason I mentioned that is because there have been several people who have come on to these thinking that I am live when they see it, and it's been pre-recorded, as this particular one is. It may seem rude when I don't acknowledge that you're there, but I can't because it's pre-recorded. However, having said that, next Monday will be the last Monday of the month, and that's when I've decided that on the last Monday of every month, I'm going to try this anyways, I'm going to do Monday Morning Coffee with Steven as a live, and that will take place at 8 o'clock in the morning. So yes, I know it's early for many of you, so you can always catch the replay, but if you're up at that time and you got yourself a cup of coffee, then come and join me for the live one. But today's not live. Excuse me. Coffee time. And one more little thing I want to say before we get started today is, yes, this will probably be somewhat long. I've given up trying to cut this back. For me, even though I just said this particular one is not live, I kind of pretend in my mind that you're there. And that's who I'm talking to. That's who I'm having coffee with. Maybe a nice warm croissant, a donut, toast with nice jam. I don't know. But whatever you're eating or whatever you're putting in your mouth, my mouth's just going to keep going, as it is right now because I'm rambling. Okay, so let's see. Current projects. Let's talk about current projects, shall we? Let me switch my camera. Here you go. Healing Waters, my quilt pattern is the top is done. It is not quilted yet. So I'm hoping today I'm going to be able to get this onto Lucy. It means I have to take Walter's practice piece off and get this on and then get it quilted. I think it's time for the practice piece to come off anyways on the long arm, because Walter wants to move up another step and he wants to have some definitive, what look like actual quilt blocks to quilt. So I have a couple of cheater cloths, and if you don't know what a cheater cloth is, it's just basically a printed quilt. It's one piece of fabric, but it looks like it's got quilt blocks on it. So he'll move his way up to that, maybe get into some ruler foot quilting as well. And I'll be documenting this every step of the way and sharing that with you, probably more on the Idiot Quilter on Tuesdays than here on the Monday morning. But it's related to what I just showed you now. And the other thing I'm working on, and I'm hoping by the end of this week I'll have it done, is the African Safari table runner. Every time I see this, I want to say African Lion Safari. And well, those of you that live in my province in Ontario are probably familiar with African Lion Safari. It's Safari, yeah, African Lion Safari. It is an attraction here in Ontario where you drive your car through these fields and the wild animals, lions, tigers, and bears. I don't know if they have any bears. I don't know if they have any tigers, but they have lions. And other exotic creatures kind of walk up and rip the mirror off the side of your car, steal your wiper blades, stick their long heads into your window and try to eat the little bit of food that you've already pre-purchased when you first came into the park and feed them. Yeah, and the monkeys especially can be very, very destructive. Now, I have not been there since I was a kid, but I think it's still going strong after like 60 years. So, yeah. Um, Anyways, how did I get on that? This is actually called the African Safari Table Runner. And I've changed the pattern slightly. They are panels you've seen previously. I showed you some of the individual panels, and then you sew them all together. Well, in their instructions, you're sewing all of those panels, and there's what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 panels in one long strip, and then slapping a couple of borders on it and call it done. I thought that was way too long. And so I just took it and did half of the panels at the top, half the panels at the bottom, matched them up as you see them here. And I think it's turning out pretty good. So what I am going to do next with this is just put some borders on it, and I have some African fabric about that, and, do the finishing touches to all of this, and then I can gift it to the next door neighbors. I'll talk more about it and the Healing Waters quilt tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter, so this is just a taste. Okay, so let's see what's next on the agenda. Okay, let's deal with a couple of comments from last week's episode from subscribers. I do read all the comments, as you know, and I do make comments back if it warrants it. Sometimes it's just people writing me a friendly little note to say thank you for whatever, and which I really appreciate. You know how I am about thank yous. Maybe I don't thank you enough for being here. I guess I should. I should thank you, because why would I do this if I didn't have you? It would be pointless. I'd be talking to myself. Yeah, kind of like what I'm doing right now. Okay, so comments from last week. Debbie writes, great episode today. Amazing all the different types of filament. Very insightful. Definitely have to try Sono. I can see that being a very large rabbit hole for me. Better make sure I will get all the chores done before I click on that link. Well, two things here. Last week we dealt with different types of filament. I just bought, speaking of different types of filament, something called PLACF. CF stands for carbon fiber. This makes the filament, the plastic, much stronger because there is carbon fiber embedded in it. I was going to try it out yesterday. I got 4 different colors in it. They're running a special, and you know I love a sale on filament especially, and fabric. And then it came up with a warning on my AMS saying that, yeah, be very careful using this in your AMS because it tends to be a little bit more brittle, and it could basically stick in your AMS, and then you'd have to pull parts apart. There is a pass-through system on these printers for these types of filaments that bypass the AMS. So I've never tried that before, but I've never had a filament that I really needed to, but now I will. So I'm going to heed the warning, and I will try it at some point, hopefully sometime this week, maybe even today, and see how that works out, and I'll let you know. I also have another new filament that I've had for a couple of weeks, and I bought several packages of this in different colors, but I have never used it, and it's called PLAHF. And I think the HF stands for high force or something like that. Again, it's a little stronger PLA. And I just made, and you saw it in the teaser, the sewing machine. Well, I'll talk about why I put that up as a teaser in a moment when we get to the 3D printing. But I needed to make an extension table for that sewing machine, and I decided to do it out of HF because you want a little something that's a little bit stronger. And it is strong. And I've made some latches for my brother-in-law. He's going to pick them up later today. He has like one of those great big Scotch totes or whatever they call them, the big plastic ones. And I guess the latches on it, or one of the latches, broke off, as they do. And he wanted to know if I could make him new ones. And he had a link to a file for putting in, to the slicer, as I've already talked about slicers and how they work, and transfer it to the printer and print it out. So I printed it out. I printed them out 2 sets. One set in this PLAHF, and they came out beautiful. And you can tell that it's stronger than regular PLA. You can feel it. And just to do a comparison more than anything, I printed another set out of transparent PETG in an orange transparent color. Now, PETG is stronger than PLA, a little more difficult to work with, but not, it just needs higher temperatures, and the bamboo printers work with it no problem. So we'll see which one, how the HF compares with the PETG, or PETG, as it's often referred to. And that was all in my discussion of different types of filaments there last week. Now, the second thing that Debbie mentions is Sono. Sono was the program I showed you for using AI to make music. Yes, it is a rabbit's hole. If you go on and play with it, and you can play with it for nothing, and you can get, like, I've never paid for it, and I have made quite a few different songs with it, just playing around with it. And it is a rabbit hole. You sit down and say, I'll just for 10 minutes, you get up, it's been 10 days later. Well, not quite, but it feels like it. And so if you want to have a little fun with AI, let's face it, AI is here to stay, and it's only going to become more developed. And it's developing at a very rapid pace, a scary rapid pace. But we can be fearful of it, or we can take control, because I think that's why we fear AI, is because it feels like it's taking over. It's taking control away from us. We are still the humans. Humans created AI. Let's not forget that. AI did not create AI. Humans created AI. We're smarter than it. And and we're not being very smart if we let AI take over. Yes, it is a serious concern, but we can control it. And Sono is one of those types of AI programs that you can take control of if you wish. So don't be a victim to AI. I'm going off on a tangent here again. Told you it's going to be long here. But, we can control it. And when in doubt, turn it off. Just hit the button. Bye-bye. Off your computer, off your smart device. If I said its name, it would talk to me. But, they're not human. They're machines. They were programmed by humans. Well, that's debatable too, because now they have something like adaptive learning or generative learning or something they call it, where they can basically program themselves and they learn. Okay, that might be scary. But again, like a teacher in a classroom, okay? A good teacher does not allow his or her students to take over, because they will try. They're little AIs. Not as smart. And as a teacher, I know I took control of my class. I was not controlled by my students. Okay? Same philosophy goes with using AI. Okay, thank you for your comment, Debbie. Rachel says, I assume the filament composition depends on the intricacies of the pattern being printed. I bought my daughter a 3D pen years ago, and she had fun with that. We'll have to ask if she still has it. Okay, Rachel, yes, you're absolutely right. The more intricate, the more complicated the model you're printing, the more filament it does use. But it is surprising how much or how many items you can print out of one spool of filament. As I told you in filament series last week, excuse me, filament comes to you not by length but by weight. I don't know why. I guess it's difficult to measure it out. But you get a 1.1 kilogram. They're in kilograms all the time. Doesn't matter whether you're in the States, here in Canada, Europe, it's in kilograms. 1.1 kilogram spool, that's roughly 2.2 pounds. So yeah, there's a lot of filament on there. So really, for the average person, you don't go through filament that fast. But having said that, if it's a really complicated and intricate and large print, yeah, it's going to take more filament for sure. And as for a 3D pen, Well, if you don't know what those are, go on Amazon, put in 3D pen. They have all these things that look like a pen, and they take a little piece of filament. They may come with a little starter spool. Most times it's not even on a spool. It's just coiled up, and it's a small amount. Um, and you can basically, it heats up to the temperature, and you hold on to the button or the trigger, and you can make with it. It's not quite the same as having a 3D printer for a lot of reasons. One, it's not going to make intricate models because you're the one controlling it. So basically, you're just painting with filament and maybe building up a few layers. They're a kid's toy more than anything else, although I do know some 3D printer people will buy those for when they finish off a model. They want to fill in a gap or whatever, or smooth out something. They may use that. Now they vary in price from really inexpensive, like under 20 bucks, to 100 and some odd dollars or more. Do I recommend one? Not really. I've had a couple, and they've never worked all that well. Now, mind you, I didn't spend $150 on each one. I spent like $20 or $30. But still, I didn't think it was worth it, and it takes a little practice. For a kid, though, it's probably a lot of fun. You want to have the kid's age, though, should be, someone who knows when things are hot and know enough not to eat the filament. So that age bracket. But anyways, yeah, they're fun with a kid. They're a creative tool, kind of a deal. Okay, thank you, Rachel, for your comment as well. Okay, so what's been happening at home and elsewhere? Well, we had a sew day at the club, as we call it. It's our gay club, gay bar here in town. And there wasn't many of us that day. There was the organizer, Brandon, who told us all about his trip to Mexico because he was in Puerto Vallarta about to get on a plane to come back home when the whole cartel thing happened. But he said, so they were there for actually, by the time they could get another flight back home to Canada, it was a week. So they had an extra week in Puerto Vallarta. Isn't that too bad? He had a great time and he felt absolutely safe. It was no problem whatsoever. But anyways, he was there. Mark, another friend of ours, Mark also is a travel friend with Brendan. He went down with his partner, and Brendan went with his to Puerto Vallarta, the four of them. And Walter, of course, myself, and Gail, our token female. So there was just the five of us. I took some 3D prints I made for them. Actually, every time I go to one of Walter's sew days, I try to take some kind of 3D printed item for them. I usually find things that I'm interested in printing, but I know that, once I've printed it, that's it. It's a one-off and move on. So if I think they're kind of interesting, like a new fidget toy or, some practical little thing, I'll print off a bunch of them and take them to the club for them, and it's like Christmas. And it's nice to see they seem to like them and kind of get excited about it. I think I may have created a monster. So I think that every time I go, they're going to be expecting something. So now I'm obligated, but that's okay. I print lots of things that just sit in a box. So I'm very happy when they go to other people. And if it brings a little joy into their life, even better. So, yeah, I took down some of those sleeves for the bottles of foaming soap that come from Body Works. You've seen them before. I made them the more everyday type sleeve, which is not one of the character ones. I've shown those before as well. And I went off to Body Works, Walter and I did, and I stocked up on some of those soaps, and so each one got a soap in it. I kind of thought it would be kind of chintzy if I just gave them the holder with no soap. In fact, they might look at it and go, what the hell's this for? So I put the soap in. And I had made a couple of those token things. You know how a shopping cart, you sometimes in some places have to put in, like here in Canada, it's usually a loonie. Some of them are a quarter. I think Walmart's just a quarter up here. Well, I don't have change on me anymore. I have $30 in my wallet, if that. I've had $30 in my wallet for a year because Canada is basically a cashless society in most ways. We pay for everything electronically on a card, on a debit card, a credit card, that kind of thing. I use my watch, Apple Pay, to pay for most things. You know, I just put it up and bang. Um, I seldom, last time I opened my wallet, moths came out. So, yeah. But that's a problem when you go to these places like the grocery store or something or Walmart and you have to put the thing into the cart to use a cart. If you don't have any change on you, that's a bit of a problem. So these fit on your keychain, and so they're always with you, and with your other keys, and they work dandy. So I had tested out the loony size one, and that worked fine. But I gave them I gave a loony size one and a quarter size one to each one of them at the So Day, and I heard back from one of the guys that, yep, he was at Walmart, worked like a charm. So that's great. So that's a practical print. I'm going to talk more about practical prints in a moment with that. And, I had a really cool fidget toy. In fact, I can show you what this looks like. Let me just reach it here. I happen to have one. This little ball, you can press all out. It's almost like liquid, isn't it? And you see, you can't stop playing with it. Why it's sitting up on a cupboard. So each of these sections will slide out a little bit, and you can, twist it a bit. And I said it would make lovely earrings. But yeah, and then you fold it all back into a ball. So yeah, each got one of those too. And I think there's something else. Oh yeah, I took some Easter bunnies, which I think I'm going to show you a picture of that today. That or I'll just reach over and grab some. Little Easter bunny, little Easter eggs, which are also fidget toys, which are lots of fun. Oh, well, no, that's my display. I think I have a picture. I'm just looking here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I'll bring those and show those to you in a moment. I don't want to get out of sequence here or we'll be here all day. And you're saying, will be? Yeah, will be. Okay. So it was a great day. I worked on the Alaska quilt. Tomorrow on Idiot Quilter, I will be talking about the trials and tribulations with the quilt from hell and why it is I'm calling it the quilt from hell. I've done other quilts from hell before. This is my latest, and you'll find out why tomorrow. Okay, so Easter's coming up. Coffee. Easter's coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and I almost kind of forgot about that because I have Easter decorations. I never used to be a biggie for decorating except at Christmas time. I didn't do Halloween, I didn't do Easter, that kind of stuff for decorations. Then I got a 3D printer, then I got into quilting, and yeah, it blossomed from there. So I will show you my Easter displays. Here we go. This is in the family room. On the coffee table we have in there. We have a round coffee table. And those of you who've been around here for a while have seen me show different displays that I put on at different times of the year on that coffee table. Well, this is one of them. And two things in here that I'm focusing on. Remember, I made that 3D printed purse, and there it is in behind, the bunny. We'll talk about him in a minute. And someone suggested to me it might make a really cool Easter basket. So I changed the dimensions of it, made it a little wider so you could put things in it. And the handles didn't work out so well, but I decided not to even bother putting the handles on it. And I put all these fake flowers in it. Dollar store. Actually, $31 worth of fake flowers. Yeah, it's amazing at the dollar store because they're not $1. They're like anywhere between about $1.75, I think was the cheapest, up to about $3.50 for a sprig of this stuff. But anyways, I put it all there, put this little display together. I've got 3D printed bunnies. They were ones I made, I think, last year. Those bunnies will actually take lights. You put little tea lights into them, like battery operated ones. I didn't this time. I strung, you can't see it here, but I strung some little fairy lights in around it that are battery operated, and it looks really pretty at night. And this is the centerpiece I created for my dining room table. And you can see it's all 3D printed. The big gnome on the end, I love him in the rainbow colors. He's lots of fun. And the dragon's egg, the big one on the other end, that you could put things in because the top comes off on it. I made it about a year ago too, and I made little ones as well. You can see them. And then there's various other types of little eggs in there and some little gnomes peeking out and bunnies and things like that. Again, some more of those flowers from, the dollar store. I think it looks cute. Okay, like that's the only thing that I decorate it with. I don't go too hog wild, just 2 tables, and it's just kind of cheerful. And I may leave this up on the table beyond Easter weekend as well because it's kind of springy, it's bright, it's cheerful. I love it. I really do. I love all the colors because I love colors. So yeah, another thing you can do with a 3D printer, make decorations, and I do all the time. So much for not decorating for every season of the year. Okay, so that's what's been going on in the past week. Of course, I've been working on my other projects, 3D printing, watching Walter learn free motion quilting, and well, yeah. So, let's see. Where's that take me to? Yeah, new products. Yes. I did get new AMS. AMS is the little box that takes 4 spools of filament, and it changes the colors in the printers. Problem is, I have 2 AMSs for each one of my printers. I have 3 printers, 3 bamboo printers, so each one is now set up to handle 8 colors at a time. And you have to have space to put them all in. So luckily, the old Creality 3D printers I am giving away. I'm just looking here at my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. What's on here? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is actually new product review. Trying to keep myself organized. So I will show you what that looks like in a minute, but I ordered it. It came pretty quick last week. I ordered some filament too. I ordered some filament on Friday. Came Saturday morning while we were at the Sew Day, which that's really fast, like Amazon fast, but it's from Bamboo Labs. But yeah, I'm really happy. I've got things organized, and I'll show you how I've organized them now in a moment. But I also wonder if this would be a good time to talk about, yeah, probably a good time to talk about the older 3D printers. The Crealities, they've all been spoken for. One has gone out the door. The other 2 are sitting here in reserve, and I'm expecting that by the end of the week, those 3 will be gone too. And good, because I need the space. I have to say I was a little reluctant to give them up, but I wasn't using them, and they were taking up space, and getting another AMS meant I had to rearrange things, as you'll see, and that made me say, yeah, why? Let spread the joy around. Let somebody else enjoy these machines. They work fine, no problem. Not as sophisticated as my bamboos, but for somebody who wants to get started out, they'll work really well. So they're gone. Okay, so highlights from last week's videos. So Monday morning coffee, I talked about filaments, as I've already mentioned, because filaments are important because you can't print without them. On the Idiot Quilter, I mentioned the fact that I have free patterns that I have written back a while ago. Written them, tested them. I haven't had any complaints by anybody who has done them, so I guess they're written okay with that, and they're free. You just go into the show notes of any of my videos. You'll find the link. They're on my Google Drive. They're in PDF format. Download them. Enjoy. And if you do one of my patterns, if you could send me a picture of it when it's done, I'd love to share it on the Idiot Quilter part of my videos. Okay, and on Steven and Walter Live, we did an update with, or not Steven and Walter Live, but on So Chatty, we did an update of Walter's free motion quilting. He's getting good at it. I'm getting jealous. But that was the whole nature of it. I just think of myself as Dr. Frankenstein, and Walter's my monster that I've made into a free motion quilting fanatic. Hopefully. And I gave an overview of the Accuquilt, and we'll continue that series on So Chatty this week as well. And on Steven and Walter Live yesterday, we got a little bit more political this week, but you know, how could we not with what's going on in the world? And yeah, so if you missed that, you know, you can pick it up on the rebroadcast. Okay, so what's coming up? Well, we have Sewing with Me on Wednesdays, as always, link in the show notes. Pop-up Sew Day, though. Yes, we haven't had one in a while. So the next Pop-up Sew Day is this coming Saturday, March the 21st. The link for that is in the show notes as well. And you should have, if you're on my mailing list, by the time you see this, you should have received an email with that link in it as well. But if you aren't on the mailing list, don't despair. As I said, go into the show notes. You'll find the link for it. Everybody's welcome. Come and go as you please. And just a reminder, retreat is coming up April the 18th. That is also free. There'll be details coming out. When will the details be coming out? Yeah, they'll be coming out the first of next week, probably next Monday. Again, for those of you on my mailing list, you'll get all the details, but I will have a special video posted as well telling you how to register, when you can register, and all that good stuff that goes along with the retreat. So stay tuned for that. So let's take a look at our current weather, shall we? So here's what things are looking like out in my front yard. You can see that the snow is disappearing. Now, we had a whole lot of snow over the weekend. Again, Walter had to go out and shovel a couple of times. And then after he got it all shoveled, the temperature crept up and started melting it away. And currently it is 9 degrees C. It is warm. Yeah, that's 9 degrees above zero. We haven't seen weather like this in a while, and it's supposed to go to a high of 12 today, which is nice. Now, the only drawback is there's a 50% chance of rain at 11 and 55% of chance of rain on 12, and then it's windy. And then, 7 p.m. tonight, 45% chance of snow. And at 8 o'clock, even higher, and 10, and 11, and then windy again. Okay, this is the up and down weather. It is March. This is what we have to look forward to. Now, tomorrow, there's an 85% chance of, looks like snow. Let me just see here. Well, no, rain. I guess it's rain. These little symbols they have are kind of hard to decipher. Yeah, I think that's rain. So, yeah, and a high of 12. And then Tuesday we have a high of -2. And then Wednesday, 0. Then Thursday it creeps up again to 6. And then on Saturday, 4. Then 6. It's all over the place. If we were a piece of glass and with these kind of temperature changes, we'd crack. So, yeah, it's March. March is always like that here, at least in Ontario where I live. So, but you can see right now, looks like sidewalks are all clear. Great, because when I go out for my walk later, I don't have to fight with ice. So, you know, all fun and games till someone breaks a hip. Okay, so that's how the weather is looking, and let's turn our attention to how our stuff is growing. And let's see if I can get this to move. Oops, just give me a sec. So Walter's got some more lettuce started. These were little seedlings, and you can see they're peeking up out of that pot. Plus, he's got a few, didn't get a good picture of it, but you can see one of them coming up here. So he's starting to replant this part of the grow light system number 1. Grow light system number 2 is not that, is this way. And yeah, lots of lettuce. Okay, so time to eat that. And lots of basil, and the basil's getting, like I said, I think we're getting a basil tree. Not sure how that's going to work out, but I said to Walter, don't cut that thing back. Don't take it out of there. Let's see what happens with it. And yeah, old dead bodies here of gnats. This is one of the problems with indoor gardening. Soil has these things in them. Now, we have not been bothered by these. These are old carcasses stuck here on this yellow sticky thing. We have not had any problem this winter with them, a lot of them. So don't know if they're dormant this time of the year, or if they, you know, I don't know. We've gotten rid of them. They are annoying. I mean, we don't have a ton of them floating around the house, but you'll get 1 or 2 that'll go by your eyes and you're killing it like that. So, yeah. Now, the jungle, as we call it, the tomato jungle, those dark things are peppers, as I told you last week. We haven't harvested them yet. We're just leaving them a little longer. Walter has a theory, but I think his theory is completely bonkers. He thinks those might turn green. I don't think they will. They're a variety, and they're that color. This very, very, it's not black. It's a deep, deep purple. And our next crop of tomatoes are coming along nicely, and that's always good. These kitchen tomatoes, that's what they call them, are excellent for under the grow lights because they only grow that high, as you can see. So yeah, easy to manage. So anyways, things are doing well in our gardening. So let's take a look at the 3D printing. Now, I mentioned that I took down to the club for the sew day little things, and a couple of those things were these bunnies and eggs. These are fidget toys, and they're really kind of fun. And I took a bunch of them down and said, take whatever you want. Gail, she has grandchildren, so I said, take some for your grandkids too, you know. And I'm making a few more now because we'll probably be invited to my sister's for Easter dinner when that comes up. So I always like to take something over there, you know, that I've printed. I mean, even though my nephew and niece are not children anymore, they're over 30, everybody has a child inside of them. And I like to, you know, when I get over there, I'll place one of these eggs and one of these bunnies at their place setting, and, you know, it's fun. And I might put them in a little bag or something, do up a little bag with a ribbon, and put in some little chocolate Easter eggs too. In fact, I think I will do that. Got to get some little bags somewhere. Anyways, they're fun. And here's what I was talking about, the new AMS setup. So you can see there's a printer on either side here. This is in this middle area where the AMSs, these 3 AMSs are now. Used to be where the Creality printers were. There's one more printer, but it's off to the side with its AMSs as well. You can't see it in this picture. So yeah, print farm. Can you say print farm? And as I said, it's working out really well. I'm really happy with it. So yeah. But then I don't have room for another printer. I could make room. But right now, there's no, in the very foreseeable future, I am not thinking of buying another 3D printer. I think 3 is enough. 4 might be overkill, although there is a 3D printer from Bamboo that's a head exchanger, which basically you can load up like 6 or 7 filaments right into the hot ends, and it, instead of switching filament, it switches hot ends, and it's supposed to create less printer poop and that kind of thing. It's expensive. Like, I think it's over $3,000 for it. I don't know. Not right now. Because I'm not sure if there's much of an advantage for me for something like that. But, you know, this is what I have right now, and I'm very happy with the whole thing. It's working like a charm. And as I said, I got rid of the old 3D printers, the Crealities, they've all been spoken for. So yeah, right now they're piled up in the Lucy room and they're taking up a lot of valuable real estate out there that I need for other junk. You know, isn't that what you do? You get stuff and then you have to find a place to put that stuff. So you rearrange your stuff, and so in comes junk, other junk gets moved to a new junk spot, and it just goes on and on and on. Eventually, I guess you have to look at it and go, okay, it's time to do a purge. I really need to do a purge in this room, in my sewing room. I need to go through drawers, cupboards, clean out a lot of crap that I don't need anymore. Donate it, give it away, whatever. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Something I should do. It will take a while to do it too. So yeah, and that's why it's not been done. Okay, so let's talk about plug and play for bamboo printers. Now, you know that I have talked about the bamboo printers, and I just want to get something up here on the screen. Oh, hey, before I talk about that, I did have a picture. There's the other printer, and it's two AMSs as well. It sits right over here off screen. So yeah. Oh, one more thing to talk about. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. This. All right, on the sew day, Gail, that I mentioned before, brought in this sewing machine. She is the office manager of an elementary school. And she is going to be running a extracurricular sewing class for grade 4s. And she's got 41 kids signed up for it. And she's been collecting old sewing machines to use with them. Well, she got this one. It's an old Kenmore. And Kenmore was the brand made from Sears, the old Sears stores. Actually, technically, Kenmore sewing machines were actually made by Janome in the day. But this one came, and it's got what they call a free arm, but not an extended table. Now, when you're teaching kids how to sew, you want to have a little bit of extra space to put your fabric on. This is not a very big sewing machine. It's quite small, actually, but it didn't have an extension table, and she could not find where she could get one secondhand, kind of a thing for this, because it's an old machine. So she wanted to know if I could 3D print one. Now I hesitated because I have looked for extension tables before for sewing machines, and there are some out there, but they're all specific to a certain model. Also, they may not be a good fit. So I said, well, I'd look. Well, I found one and I printed it out. This isn't it. The one I printed out didn't fit quite right. There was a gap between the end of the sewing machine, this part up here just past the needle. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not here, but right in here and here, there was a gap. So I thought, well, I can try and alter it. So I went in and I printed this, by the way, with that PLA-HF that I was talking about before. Love that stuff. It's really strong, and you want this to be strong. So I went into the actual editing part of my slicer, which is very limited, and I filled in the space and merged it together. And I had to print an extra leg for over on this side. Actually, I had to print two extra legs, one here and one for over here, because the other one was a little bit different the way it was set up. And I did that, and it's fine. It'll work. Little gap right here, nothing to worry about. The only thing I'm concerned about is it's a little slippery on the legs at the bottom. So, as the kids are using it, it may slip away. So I'm going to get, I've got some Velcro, and I'm going to cut a thin strip of Velcro, and I'm going to mount it on the inside down in here in front of the needle. And so you'll be able to take the table off for transportation, but when you want to use it, you can just slap the table back on, and my theory is the Velcro will keep it from sliding away from the machine when you're using it. I may put a little piece of Velcro over here too. So that's something later today to do. But I'm very happy that I was able to do this, and I think Gail will be happy with this. I hope she will be. Okay, so yeah. Anything else do I have here to show you? Nothing there. Okay, so let's get back to this whole idea of plug and play. And I think you're very much aware of what I mean by plug and play, meaning exactly what it says. You get a new device, you plug it in the wall, away it goes. Printers were not always like that. Printers took a lot of tinkering, some assembly required, like a lot of assembly. And then they started coming out, and bamboo's been one of the forerunners of this. When you get a bamboo printer, yes, it comes in a very large box, but that's because it's fully assembled. It takes you about 10 minutes to get it all unpacked, but within 15 minutes of unpacking it, of arriving, unpacking it, you plugged it in, you're doing your first print. Bang. Very intuitive on how to do things as well. And as you get used to it, you can, you learn the other intricacies of the whole thing. But a lot of people think that plug and play means problem free. No, it does not. There are so many things that affect your ability to print something. Now, mind you, in the bamboo system universe, you have very little tinkering you need to do with it. But there are tinkerers out there. I'm sort of a tinkerer, sort of not. My philosophy is if it ain't broke, why fix it? Kind of deal. So I kind of only do it on a need-to-know basis to tinker. But lots of people do all kinds of tinkering. But that's what they love. And printers in general, 3D printers in general, are great for people who are confident tinkerers. Yeah. But there are resources to help you out if you run into a problem. And I'm not going to list all the problems you could run into, because I really don't want to discourage anybody from getting into 3D printing. But just more or less as a cautionary note that things will go wrong. And you'll have to learn how to fix those things, because these are big machines. They tell you to keep the box in case you ever need to send it back to them. Well, sending it back to them at what it would cost to ship them, because they're heavy and the whole bit, you need to learn how to fix it yourself. Luckily, there are resources for all of this. And one of the resources, if you buy a bamboo printer, their resources are excellent. However, all of the major brands of 3D printers have something similar. And this is the front page of Bamboo Labs, and they're shooting around here with their little graphics, which annoy me to no end when these things do these. I don't know if you can turn it off. No, it just goes on for days. But anyways, this is an excellent resource. All 3D printers, I say, have a website, and they have wikis, many of them, which is basically an online encyclopedia with troubleshooting, advice, help, all that kind of stuff. This, of course, is also their store here. And, ooh, that's cool. For your headphones. Wow. Lots of things you can do. Okay, stop it. I'm going down a rabbit hole. But what I want to show you is a lot of them have videos to help you out with things, reviews, everything like that. But one of the things that they have is accessories, parts, spare parts, which Bamboo has a very extensive selection of parts. Everything from your grease and oils to extra cables to you name it. Whatever you need to replace. Now, do you have to replace these things often? No. In fact, the one thing that you might have to replace, and I've only had to do it about once or twice on any given machine, are the nozzles. And depending on which machine you have, they are very easy to replace. You might want to change out your build plates. I'm using the same build plates that came with it, but there are textured ones there that give an interesting design on your print. There's ones for difficult materials to print with as well that don't stick as well, all that kind of stuff. I have never bought one. I should. Here's one, bamboo dual texture PEI plate, you know, that kind of thing. Um, I have a supply of print heads. You can see that they can be, now this is a high flow. I've never bought a high flow. That's for, again, for special materials like TPU and things like that, the filament types. But you can see they're really not all that expensive, $25 to replace one of them. Or even as low if you've got the A1 series, they're $12.99. This one's for the H2 and P2S ones. So really, it's all there. Lots and lots of parts. And as I said, there is also a a wiki. And like under support here, let's go to the official wiki. This is where you can learn all about your printer and how to replace the parts you may need to replace or troubleshoot. And they have lots of things. And they go on in the Bamboo Lab series, they go by, in the lab, rented lips. Coffee. Thank you. Coffee back. You can pick the printer that you're having trouble with. Like, let's go to the X1 series, because I have X1 printers. It shows you the parts. It's got a quick start guide. It's features, guides, troubleshooting. This is the one that you will want the most. If something's not working right, check with this. And it will probably tell you how to fix it without any problem. They also have a fairly good support line as well, where you can fill out a ticket. And you have to remember Bamboo Labs, in the case of Bamboo Labs, but on most of the printers, they are manufactured in China, and that's where their headquarters are. So, if you're in North America, you're writing up a ticket, you have to realize it's the middle of the night in China when you send it off. So you will have to be patient. Give them about 24 hours. They will get back to you. I do find them a little annoying because they ask all the same initial questions, so you may be working with this over a period of several days before you get your answer. So you're better off to go to the wiki, because they're constantly updating it with new information. So, really use the support ticket as a last avenue to solve your problem. Use the wiki. The other thing that's really cool when it comes to, figuring out what's wrong with a printer or some aspect of it, just go in and do a Google search under the AI and plug in your question. Why is my Bamboo printer, my X1 printer, clogging? Boop. The wiki will come up with everything, and they will probably refer you to the site of, if you've put in the name of the printer, they will probably refer you to where you can find that information on the manufacturer site as well. So there's lots and lots of resources for you for this. So yes, if you buy something like a Bamboo, you probably aren't going to have a lot of major problems with it. But it's always good to, maybe when you get since you're investing a lot of money in a 3D printer, no matter what the brand, it's always a good idea to have a few spare parts laying around, so your downtime isn't great. And, most of the time, the thing that's going to go on most printers over time, because of wear and tear, is the nozzle. And so you can pick those up for very little money. And if you don't know how to replace one, check the wiki. Do an AI search, whatever. Okay, so what else do I want to talk about on 3D printers? I don't know. I've covered, buying one, setting it up, accessories, troubleshooting, support, filament types, slicer. I don't know what more I can tell you. But I think I'm going to take you on a tour, not today, but and probably maybe next week on the live. I don't know. I'm going to do a little video clip showing you my house full of 3D prints, because I don't think there's a room in this house that doesn't have some form of a 3D print. So that may be next week. Okay, so let's move on to this is interesting. And because we've just gone through it, time change. Why do we change the clocks twice a year? Well, this is what I found. I kind of knew this already, but this article, and you can just do a search if you're interested in this, but what I found was actually the origins of the time change and what it says. And if we go down here, did I pass it? I maybe passed it. It's probably closer to the beginning. What does science say? Okay, so they say right now there's a lot of controversy onto whether or not we should save the whole idea of changing our clocks forward in the spring back in the fall. There's a whole thing about health, how it affects us that way, and a whole bunch of other things, and whether or not we really need to have this kind of thing in this day and age. Well, it says here, I'm just trying to find the history of it. I thought it was in this article. Oh yeah, here it is. In favor of daylight saving time. Yeah, I knew it was here. It says on the other side of the coin can be found the arguments behind the original introduction of DST, daylight saving time. During World War I, first the German Empire and then the Allies introduced daylight saving time as a way of saving energy, reasoning that increased light in the evening would reduce the consumption of energy. More recent studies have, however, suggested that our modern power consumption habits means that savings in the reduction of energy used for evening lighting are now often offset by increased energy consumption, for example, by air conditioning or traveling to leisure activities in the warmer, lighter evenings. So basically, they're saying here that it originally was started as an energy saving device during the First World War. Now, I have also read, though, that daylight savings time, they made the change so that the farmers would have more light, into the evening for doing their farm chores and things like that. I'm not sure how true that is. Also, we had a time when, we didn't have artificial light. So when the days were getting shorter, we had more darkness. But in this modern day and age, well, we have artificial light. So, and now we have like days where people don't have to adjust their lifestyle or their work habits according to how much light's available because of the artificial light. So do we really need daylight savings time? There's also a whole bunch of things about the psychological effects, how it screws up our system, our, what do you call that? A circadia? Circadia, I don't know if that's the right term. I saw it up here. And I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me about that. Word's hard. But anyways, it's our sleeping patterns. And it disrupts that. And I know some people are affected more than others about it. It doesn't really affect me, but I know some people that it has a severe effect on them until their system gets readjusted to it. So, yeah, everybody has their opinion about this, but I just thought this was of interest, this particular article. And I will put this article in the show notes below if you're interested in reading it further. But as I said, just do a search. Why do we change our clocks? And you'll find it. Lots of articles about that. Okay, so I think we've come to the end of today's episode. Told you it's going to be long. I make no apologies for it. If you liked what you heard, and if you're new here, please subscribe and please hit the like button. Your comments are always welcome, and I read them all. So, and I respond to them best I can too. So, yeah. So I hope you have a great week. Remember to tune in to the Idiot Quilter tomorrow where we'll focus our attention more on quilting itself. And okay, have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.